Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how the car shortage is over. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you can see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. Car shortage. This is a term that we have heard constantly over the course of like the last 3 years with pretty much everything, especially with cars. And there are some car dealerships that will still use this to close car deals. They'll claim that we have a shortage on vehicles, and if you don't buy this vehicle today, then it's going to sell tomorrow, and then you're gonna have to wait 10 months before another one pops in. And the reality is that we are no longer in a situation where there's a car shortage. We actually are in a situation where we're pretty much diving into an excess of car inventory. And let me give you guys some facts to back up this statement. So first off, the day supply number of new vehicles available across the board with all manufacturers is pretty much 60 days. Now, if you're wondering what day supply means, this means that based on the current sales pace, it would take about 60 days to sell out of every single new vehicle that is in the US market. And 60 days is considered to be the ideal day supply number. That is considered to be quote unquote normal. So we are officially in a normal market when it comes to the day supply number. But when you dive into individual brands and to individual vehicles, then what you find is there are some brands that have a day supply number that is way above that 60-day number. I mean, there are some brands that it's well over 100 days for their day supply. And then there are certain models that like they have a day supply number of over 200 days because people aren't buying the cars. And people not buying the cars is another way to say that there is not a shortage of cars, because if there was a shortage of cars, you wouldn't have a 200-day supply of said vehicles at your store. But it goes further than that. On top of the day supply number consistently increasing, especially over the course of like the last 6 months, we are in a situation where dealer discounts are increasing and the amount of vehicles that have markups on them are decreasing, and a lot of them are just frankly becoming non-existent. I mean, look at like Raptors, for example. Just a few months ago, dealers were asking $10,000, $20,000 over MSRP, and now you have Raptors sitting on Ford dealer lots that aren't sold, that the dealers are asking MSRP for those vehicles, and they're still not selling. Again, when you look at the numbers, it makes logical sense to come to the conclusion that there is not a shortage of cars. When you see bigger discounts and you see smaller markups or no markups at all, that tells you that supply is starting to outpace the amount of people that are actually purchasing cars. And if all of that was not enough to convince you that we no longer have a car shortage, then just listen to what automakers are saying. Pretty much every single automaker is saying that, yeah, the COVID challenges, like they're pretty much over at this point. And on top of that, you have automakers stating that they kind of overbuilt. I mean, look at General Motors. They literally idled one of their plants for 2 weeks because they wanted to keep their truck supply in ideal amounts, right? A manufacturer doesn't idle a plant if there's so much demand and if there's a car shortage, right? That just doesn't happen. And so when you listen to what the manufacturers are saying, then it's pretty crystal clear. The car shortage is over, and now automakers are focusing on what cars to build that are still in demand and how to price these vehicles so that they can keep the selling going. And I mean, if you look at the manufacturer that right now is pretty much the most constrained out of every other manufacturer, and that is Toyota, they're pretty much saying the same thing. Like Toyota's basically said, yep, the worst is behind us and we're going to start ramping up production even more. And so when you have Toyota that has the smallest day supply of inventory in the US market saying that, yep, the car shortage is over, then that kind of tells you that, yep, the car shortage is over. So now that I have convinced you, or hopefully convinced you, that there is not a car shortage anymore, how can you practically use this information to help you out as someone who is shopping for a car? First off, obviously don't buy into the story, right? Dealers are still going to try to tell you that, yep, these are hard to get, and if you don't buy this now, it's going to be a long time until another one comes in. Don't buy into it because, again, that is not reality anymore for the most part. Yes, there are some select vehicles that are still really hard to get, but I recently went through every single, hard to get vehicle, and I found that you can pretty much find everything at this point as long as you're not super picky on options and colors. If you're like super particular on a specific color with specific options, then yes, with certain vehicles, you still might struggle to find those. But like even vehicles that have huge markups on them that are apparently really hard to get a hold of are pretty easy to get a hold of, like Mercedes G-Wagon, Raptors, for example, GT500s, even like stuff like 911 GT3s, right? Those are apparently sold out forever, and you do a quick search and you can find some. Now, yes, again, a lot of these cars still have markups on them, but it's not like there's a shortage of these vehicles. And so it's kind of like a game of chicken at this point, where it's like, is the customer gonna jump off first, or is the dealership going to jump off first? And that's really what is defining today's market is, there are dealers that are still, holding to this idea because, again, it's a profitable idea to hold to, because if you can convince someone that a vehicle is really hard to get and that if they don't buy it now, then they're probably not going to be able to get it and it's probably going to be a worse deal, then you're not only going to get that car deal sooner rather than later, but on top of that, you're probably going to make more money off of that customer because you'll be able to convince them to pay a premium to get it now versus later when it might not be available anymore, or when it might be more money because the manufacturers, right? Something else dealers are saying, manufacturers will keep increasing their prices. And there is definitely some truth to that as well. And so to pull all of this together, here's what I'd have to say if I was someone that was shopping for a car today. And this is kind of the advice that I've been giving for months at this point. And that is to, first off, do your research and figure out what exactly is happening to the market on the car that you are looking at purchasing. Look outside of your local market, because although, it might be hard to find that vehicle in your local market, what you might find is maybe just a little bit outside of your local market, availability might be a lot better. And on top of determining actual availability with the vehicles that you're looking at purchasing, exercise patience. Patience is going to be everything in this market, because I can tell you with everything that's happening in the used market, if you pay any level of markups in today's market, then just basically count that as money gone. Seriously, and that's what you should do in a normal market. That's what people mentally did prior to the pandemic. It's like, yeah, I'm paying this markup on this car because I want it now and I want it with these options and all that kind of stuff. But I understand that that money is gone. And so that's the mentality that you need to have if you're going to be paying any sort of markups on cars, or even MSRP on a lot of cars at this point. Because again, we're going towards a more quote unquote normalized market where we're going to experience more normal depreciation. And so used cars are no longer going to be selling for original MSRP or above original MSRP. It's going to go back to what it was like before, where you buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it instantly loses value. And if you trade it in within 6 months to 12 months, and let's say that you paid cash for it, you're probably going to lose quite a bit of money, 10, 20, maybe even more, in terms of percent loss on the vehicle. And so as long as you have all of that together, where you're patient, you research the market, and you go in with the mentality that you are purchasing something that is going to lose value, and you're buying it based on what it can do for you rather than thinking that you're going to be able to drive this car for free and all that, then you will be in the right mentality to where I think that you'd be able to set yourself up for a good deal on a car and not buy something that you're going to regret. I'll see ya.